So, can you just start out by telling a little bit about yourself and your books?
Sure. Well, I am a obviously Midwest-based author. I've been writing since I was super young, but started writing with a bent toward doing it like actually professionally since about 2012. I currently have uh, 14 books published, one standalone, one epic saga, one trilogy that is being switched to a duology, and then one ongoing series that has two main installments and a shorter spin-off.
Okay.
So very, very busy over here in Authorland.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's super exciting. And so, can you also tell a little bit about the book that we're spotlighting for the Romance Reading Road Trip as well?
Yeah, so that is the first book in the series that I'm currently publishing. It is called A Story Spun in Scarlet. It's the first book in the Tales of Wonder and Woe. And this series is romantasy interconnected standalones. Technically, I call them sequential standalones because they're best read in order, just because there's a lot of world building in A Story
Oh,
Spun in Scarlet.
cool.
But it's a story about a storyteller in a land where all stories have lost their endings. And so basically, the magic that comes from stories has left their world. Nobody knows why. And so the main character, Audra, is a storyteller just kind of trying to get by. And then she meets a man named Jake. And when she tells a story around him, her story gets its ending back. And so she and Jake kind of embark on this cross country fantasy road trip to try and figure out why stories lost their endings and why Jake can bring the stories back.
Ah, oh my
So,
gosh, it sounds so fun. Oh my gosh. So, can I ask then? This is kind of like the question that I feel like all of us authors, it's like a love-hate question, but where did you get your inspiration for this story?
well, a lot of it honestly came unfortunately, but also fortunately from I had a really long bout of writer's block after I finished a particular project. It was back in like 2022, I think. I had really bad writer's block. I couldn't finish a story. Like I had a lot of really good ideas. And I would start stuff. I would maybe even get like one book into a new series idea, and then it would just crash out. And I
Yeah.
couldn't finish it. And so finally one day I was like, well, what if I told a story about a storyteller going through exactly what I'm going through, but there's like a magical reason behind it.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of like me being able to work out the problem on the page, which I
Oh,
do a lot in my books. So
oh, that's so cool. And you were able to work it out because, of course, the book got published and everything. So that's so
yes.
exciting. Oh my goodness. How cool, though. What a unique way and idea to kind of come up with that story idea. I love it. Oh my goodness.
It was super fun. It was super fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, since you've dealt with writer's block, what information or ideas would you give for other writers going through that right now?
Oh, I think honestly, I'm learning so much that it's not a one size fits all thing because I wrote, I wrote a Spun in Scarlet and I wrote its sequel, which I struggled with, or I should say the next book in the series, and then I wrote its sequel, which I struggled with, and then I wrote another book in the series. I really struggled with all of that. And then I got back to not being able to finish anything.
Oh,
And it ended up being an entirely like different solution to out of that. And so I think really um the advice I would give anybody who has writer's block is like don't be afraid to try different things to get out of it.
mhm.
Because it at one point like maybe a break would help. Maybe you're burned out, maybe you're just too close to story and can't think your way through a plot problem. But sometimes maybe the way through it is to write through it. And then other times, for me, I a lot of times get inspiration from watching a show or a movie, but also or reading, obviously, kind of is
Right.
the go-to. But sometimes if I read things, watch things, I end up sort of wanting to go off and write something different because I'm like, oh, I'm inspired by like How to Train Your Dragon or, whatever,
Yeah.
and wanting to like, oh, now I want to write a story about dragons. And so I think it's just, being willing to take a little bit of everything and
Yeah.
try everything, especially like each time you get writer's block, don't necessarily assume you have
Sure.
to do the same thing to solve the problem.
Very cool. I love that answer. And so when you get a story idea, do you find that you are the person that gets like say the plot, or are you the person that gets the character right away?
Gosh, it depends on the story. I feel like a lot of I just start on vibes. Like a lot of times, music is a huge inspiration for me.
Cool.
My best work is always something that I can tie like to music. I can brainstorm. Like I'm very, very visual. So usually I will start with like a song and a scene tied to a song, and
Oh,
then it goes from there. Um, it's more rare that I start with plot, but I won't say it never happens. Like sometimes I'll get even like an elevator pitch kind of thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can build on that. So it really
cool.
varies project to project.
Okay, I love that. That's very cool. And since you are very connected to music, for your story, what song kind of like helped inspire that one, the road trip one?
Well, for Stories Fun and Scarlet, it was actually I have like a million covers of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah on my
Cool.
various book playlists. But there was a new one that came out like right at the time that I started brainstorming for Stories Fun and Scarlet. And I forget it's like some tenor group and then a choir from Kenya.
Okay.
And they did
Cool.
a cover of it, and I could very clearly see a moment of character telling a story, and then her love interest just listening, just watching and listening, and you could
Right.
see the look in his eye. And I was like, I got to follow these people and see like what leads up to this moment. So that
Oh,
was like the core song for that.
very cool. Oh my gosh. You were to go on a road trip. What book would you bring with you on a road trip?
Mm. Oh, that's really hard because I feel like actually Caraval by Stephanie Garber actually has it's tied in my brain to road trips because I was in
Cool.
a really bad reading slump, and my family's on a road trip, our first one in many years, to drive from Indiana to Colorado.
Cool.
And so I brought Caraval because I was like, I need something, something to get me through this. I was like, maybe this will get me out of my reading slump. And so it's very tied to road trips in my head. And I got my mom to read it on the drive back. So I think I would have to go with that just to like recreate the magic of that
Oh,
experience.
that's awesome. I love that. If they were to go on another road trip, what snacks would they have with them?
Um, so they are both like really big like sandwich people.
Okay.
And so even as they go on this trip, like they're popping in out of towns, and they tend to get like sourdough bread, like fresh baked
Cool.
sourdough bread, and like tavern turkey or boar meat and goat cheese and honey and like all these kinds of very rustic foods.
Yeah.
So they would definitely be the kind of to just like prepare ahead, scout out the taverns on the way, be like, okay, which tavern can we go to? What sandwich should we try there? And just be like trying
No,
the signature sandwiches all along the way.
funny. What is your must-have road trip treat?
Chocolate. I know it's a little bit cliche, but anytime I'm going anywhere more than like 3 hours away, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get myself like a couple chocolate bars, and then portion them out as I drive so that I don't get a sugar crash. But ever since I was a kid, that's been the go-to, some form
Chocolate.
of chocolate in the car.
Awesome. Do you have a
Yeah.
favorite chocolate? Like,
Oh. I love like small chocolatier chocolates.
yeah.
And I actually just came back right before we did this, had just driven about an hour away to the city with my son, and we got chocolates for on the road. So like
Oh,
anytime I can support a small business, but if I
right.
can't, I really love like there's a brand Who chocolate, and they
Okay.
have like chocolate cashews and stuff. So good. So
Ooh.
good.
Oh my gosh. Are they big? Like kind of like in your guys' area and everything?
It depends on what store you go to. The town that I'm from is incredibly small. We only have
Yep.
two grocery stores, and so
Oh,
it's hit
yep.
or miss there. But if you drive, 20 minutes in any direction, so much Who
Interesting.
chocolate, so many chocolatiers. Like
Oh, goodness.
it's
I love
it's
it.
pretty great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up those some of those I love chocolatier places too. I just feel like Hershey's and some of those are just so waxy that they just
Yeah,
don't taste like delectable chocolate.
doesn't scratch that itch for chocolate.
Yes, exactly. If you ever get a chance, I'm not sure if you've ever been to like Switzerland or Austria or Germany, but if you ever get a chance to go,
Go on a chocolate
but
run. Try all
yeah,
chocolate.
like my husband said, he was like, I'm going to have to save up a little money for our next trip there so that I can just spend it on chocolate.
I mean, it's
So
easy to
good.
bring back home in your suitcase. It's, a useful souvenir. It won't
Yes,
last, but it's useful.
and you enjoy it, right?
You
Yes,
better. I mean, goodness, for bringing it home from across seas, it's like I better love this. And
exactly.
it's probably better than most of what I can find here. Let's be real. So
Oh, totally. Yes. So with this being a road trip, can you tell a little bit about your state and what you love about your state and how you kind of have brought that into your own writing?
sure. So obviously, Indiana, crossroads of America, heart of the Midwest, like it's a very Midwest state. And one of the things that I really love about it is that especially the town I live in, it's called Martinsville, and it's about a little less than halfway through the state, like a little further south than halfway, but they call it the gateway to southern Indiana because everything to the north of us is flat and everything to the south of us is very hilly. And
Ah,
so being able to I try to bring a lot of that flavor of like the terrain shift, like the sudden shift where it goes from like you're on a trip that's kind of monotonous to all of a sudden things can become very very magical, very like you feel like you're in like a whole different world in a
yeah.
way. And I really tried to work that in, not just to A Story Spun in Scarlet, but a lot of my books have some kind of like you're walking somewhere, you're in the forest, it feels like everything is just the same, and then you find a pocket of something beautiful and glorious and unforgettable. And I'm sure other states have that too. I mean, that was certainly the case in some of the places we went, like when we went out to Colorado. But it's growing up in Indiana, that's always been something that my family's try to do is when we go on hikes, like we try to find a place that feels like a whole different world.
Oh,
And so
cool.
I try to bring that vibe in, especially with writing high fantasy. It's just like
Awesome.
that feeling of all of a sudden you're somewhere completely different and it's
And
beautiful.
oh,
So
I love that. That's really cool. And that's cool that you're able to kind of bring that into even like your fantasies, like, with your world building. And so how has Indiana with that, finding that whole new world in your own, backyard sort of, like how have you been able to bring that into like, your world building? And how has that
oh,
influenced?
well, definitely like ever since I was a kid, like baby writer, teenage author trying to, think she was going to be the next big thing. When I needed inspiration, I would go out in like we have a lot of state parks, a lot of state forests,
Love that.
especially in this area, but even a little further north where I grew up. And so I would go if I couldn't visualize, I go on, to one of the parks or the forest, and I would just stand and look through the trees and I would visualize like my characters coming over a hill on horseback,
Oh, cool.
or imagine like as I'm going on a hiking trail, like encountering them around a bend.
Yep.
And then I even would take my camera and take pictures of what I saw and then just re-describe it. So in a lot of ways, the places that I went to, those pockets of beauty and magic that I found actually found their way directly into the story, which is really cool because people don't usually think of the Midwest being that way, and especially Indiana. A lot of people, I see people poke fun at it online. They're like, Indiana's just the state you go through to get somewhere else, and it's
Right.
like,
Yep.
but there's something unique here, just like there's something unique
Yeah.
everywhere. And so the things that I've personally seen, the things that have captured my interest that I've, taken pictures of and things like that are the things that I've tried to work into that world building.
Right. I absolutely adore that. That's awesome. If you were to think of some different places in Indiana that you're like, okay, people should go there. If they come here, they should go here, here, and here. Like if you had a few recommendations, where would you
Right.
recommend people go?
Well, if you're a nature person, if you like the kind of places that it's like, oh, this feels like I've stepped into a fantasy novel, I would definitely recommend some of the state parks. Like Turkey Run State Park is a huge. I grew up going there. It's all like gorges and gulches and
Wow.
waterfalls, things like that. So that very much has that kind of vibe. If you're big into hiking and trails of various varying levels of challenge, that's a great place to go. If you're into more amusement park type things. Another place that I really love, my family has always really loved, is Holiday World down
Okay.
near the border. Lots of fun roller coasters, and it's a really great family oriented experience. And I think something that sometimes Indiana gets overlooked for, but this has been like my personal passion as a middle of the state person, is coffee shops.
Oh,
There
yeah.
are a lot of really amazing coffee shops, and while
Cool.
that's not necessarily like an all day visit thing. Go to places like Carmel, Indiana, Zionsville, Central Indiana, South Central, like the Greenwood area. There are a lot of really amazing coffee shops
Ooh,
that you can
okay.
go and support. Especially if you're like on a road trip and you want to get coffee, but you don't necessarily want to support like Starbucks.
Yeah.
There are a lot of places, really easy access off of all the highways, that could really use the support and have just
Oh,
such good coffee.
I
Such good
love
coffee.
that. And that's the thing. I love those like little mom and pop shop coffee shops and stuff. So, are there any of your favorite coffee shops? What are they called? So people could stop over and grab some.
Ooh, well, it's hard to narrow it down. I will say here in my town, there's a place called Urban Brew, which is really great if you have kids because they have an indoor play area as well.
Nice.
But they're very supportive of authors. They have like a here's a bookshelf, take a book and read while you're here. So they're a really great place. There's a couple places up in Greenwood, Indiana. Runway 19 and Mocha Nut are two places where I've actually done a lot of writing. Again, very supportive of authors and also just phenomenal coffee. And then if you're in like Bloomington, Southern Indiana, anywhere that sells Brown County coffee, they're probably my favorite of all of the Indiana coffee roasters. So Daily Grind in Nashville, which is a great tourist place.
Oh,
Lots of shops, lots of really good indie bookstores. There's a bookstore there called Naughty Dog Bookstore, where I've actually done a couple signings. I have my books on their shelves. They are amazing. And just down the road from them is like there's the Daily Grind coffee shop. There's sweet teas, tea and coffee. So many places, so many good coffee
oh,
places.
that's wonderful. Oh my goodness. It's been so much fun like talking to all the different authors and finding out just these different things in these different states that you don't even think about, Like, but that's awesome. Like even like how you were saying the chocolatiers, like really good chocolatiers in the area too. That's really cool.
Yes, I love how each state has its things that are important to the people who live there, and they're
Yeah.
maybe off the beaten path a little bit, not as well known, but you wouldn't know unless people get the chance to talk about it. So
Neat.
excited to have the opportunity to share about that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
totally. And I'm so happy to have you on here too and everything. And are you working on anything new right now?
I have some irons in the fire, nothing that is like being publicly shared about yet or anything. But in terms of that, in terms of drafting, in terms of like publication stuff, I do have my First of the Blessed trilogy is being re-released as a duology, and that's coming up in, oh my gosh, what month is it now? June. Okay, so so a little less than a month from now. And then in the same series as A Story Spun in Scarlet, book three of that, A Poem Penned in Poison, is actually coming out on Halloween.
Oh, cool.
So
That's
a
exciting.
lot of my time is being taken up with prep for those because I've never, well, I should say I haven't done, I've done a cover rebrand, but never done like a series re-release before. So that's taking a lot of focus. And
Okay.
then, just gearing up for the next big book release in the fall has been a lot.
Oh, I can
So,
imagine.
well, I originally wrote the books back in 2019. It was pretty fast drafted, and it's very plot oriented, which most of my books are a little more character driven. So it was a cleaner write in the sense of it was very quick, it was very easy to write up, and I thought, it was very polished and ready to be published.
Hmm.
And so I published it, worked on it, edited it as like a brand new mom. Like when my son was a newborn sleeping on, I was editing this because I didn't have the brain power to draft.
Oh,
So
sure.
I rapid released it in I want to say 2023. The years all kind of blur together again, since becoming a mom.
Right.
But I believe it was like early through mid 23 I released it. But over time I realized that I missed a lot of things about marketing, that
Oh,
the
sure.
covers weren't really to market, the length of the books, that it's a trilogy, but again they were very fast paced, so each book is less than 90K.
Okay.
um 9,000, 90,000, less than 90,000 words each book. And so they were very skinny, very like covers not to market. And they just haven't sold well. And so I had a lot of readers as well as author friends come to me, after the fact. Once I was ready to hear the feedback and be like, great series, not the right execution.
Oh,
And so I had some people advise me, they were like, if you, instead of having this be a trilogy of skinny books, have it be a duology of, books that are about 350 to 400 pages,
oh,
it's going to look much better on the shelves. It's going to be much more marketable, and you need new covers.
okay.
So I
Oh,
invested in getting new covers, shrank it down to a duology, and am also releasing hardcovers where it was previously on paperback.
okay.
So that was a lot of work. That was another big
Sure.
push in between drafting things. I was just like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to edit this, polish it up. I found a lot of typos, and I was like, yeah, I very much edited this as a new mom with new mom.
Yeah.
Probably should have waited to release it, but
But
what
you
are you
know
going to do?
what?
You learn.
You learn and hey, that experience and you still got readers that love the stories
Because I
and
knew I wanted to try and see if like rapid releasing was for me.
release.
It was not.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
you're right. I wouldn't have learned that lesson if I hadn't tried it. And it was a good series to try it on, because now I'm like, okay, now I can step back. I can
Yeah.
redo it. I can market it better. And I'm more confident about marketing it now that I know it's a little bit more to market.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Oh,
messy middle right now. So I'm like, once it's out there, it's good, and I can then focus more on the release of the next new book.
oh,
So
good. Well, that's super
all
exciting.
right.
Oh I really have enjoyed learning more about your story and also about Indiana and also about you. So, where can people find you and your books?
Well, I am primarily on Instagram. That's where I have chosen to hone most of my limited marketing energy. So, Renee Dugan writing on Instagram. And then my books are available at most online book retailers, or for people who prefer signed copies and swag and merch when I have it,
Okay.
reneeduganwriting.com/books.
Very
Or I'm sorry, /shop. That
oh,
will get you to the shop where all of my signed copies are available.
wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been so much fun.
Thank you
Also,
so much for having me and having me as the representative for my state. I love it here and I love getting to do this. So this has been
oh,
wonderful.
it was an absolute
Thank
pleasure. I
you.
hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, you too. Thank you so much again. Bye.
Yeah, see you later. Thanks for riding shotgun on the Romance Reading Road Trip. I'm so excited for you to be joining this journey with us. Be sure to go down to the video description below and sign up for the passport. You're not going to want to miss out on it.